Okay, so we're gonna be reviewing this clip right over here. Let's start from here. Yeah, here. Okay, now, let's start from here, okay? What I just did was a whip ride. Now, how do we perform this? This is a tech where you're mid-air, you whip onto a rocket. So, okay, typically when you whip whip a rocket to yourself, it explodes on you. And while this is good in certain situations, like, for example, let's just heal myself real quick. Like, situations like this. Right? That's cool. You just explode yourself and the surrounding people kill you, except for 35 health. That's the trade-off. But, to whip ride, you simply hold spacebar in the air. Simple. And it's also omnidirectional. You can go straight up, straight down, this way, that way, fucking behind you while you're facing another direction. It works pretty well, right? Let's continue. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm filling the arena with oil. Now what oil does is it has two functions. Let's just turn on blind enemies. Now you have your normal and you have your let's just do this. Okay, so oil can be applied either to enemies or onto the ground. Now, typically you want them more on enemies, but either works fine. What it does is when they're ignited, they take 150% more damage. Unlike on the ground though, it's different. So it's just gradual damage, except when it's on an enemy, it's, you know, it has that bonus of being like 150% more damage, yada yada. And it's only positives, like you just get constant damage around the arena. So even though even though it's not much damage, it still has its effects. It gets rid of the fodder and it also ignites the larger enemies. Let's continue. Okay. So what the fuck did I just do there? Now that's what I call my power elimination combo. Now this enemy is a power. And these guys are annoying as fuck. So they're just really annoying. These guys, let's give a little bit of context on what they do as well. They have 40 health, which is like medium to heavy enemy. So it's quite a good chunk of health where, you know, they're very annoying, very fast, whatnot, but they're also pretty tanky. Yeah. So, how do I get rid of these motherfuckers? Now, this is what this is my combo where, as you saw before, obviously they don't do this in Sandbox, but as you saw before, let's go back here. When they're in their beam of light, they pause for a few seconds. And that's my setup. So while they're like paused because they're cocky fucks, they just kind of stand there and do nothing for like 3 seconds. That's when I initiate my fucking rounds. So obviously this guy's not stunned at the moment, but you see what I mean? I try and get as much damage in them before they start, you know, doing their stupid shit, which I don't like. And as you see, works out pretty well because they died immediately, huh? Let's continue. I won't explain it. Now, there's a couple things I actually want to talk about. I forgot to mention this at the start, but my main weapon, which is the jackhammers, let's talk about how their primary works. Okay? So, these guys are speed based. You see that gauge? Like, that moves when I walk and stuff? That is the speed gauge, and that also, and you see on my UI as well, 16.50. That's my current speed units per second, and its damage correlates to how fast you're going. So if you're walking speed, nothing. If you're medium speed, 6 damage, and if you're fucking flying, a lot of damage. But the issue with that is that when you do a full impact, it comes on a 7-second cooldown, which we don't like very much, huh? And obviously, one of the things about this is that it has great quick draw. So, but obviously you also wanna avoid the 7-second cooldown. So typically good jackhammer players will stay within that green area. An issue with constantly hitting yellow gauges though is that if you hit 3 in a row in like 3 seconds, it comes on a cooldown for all jackhammers for 3 seconds. That's 333. That's you just want to avoid it as much as possible. So you don't want to spam the jackhammer, but it's also a very spammable weapon. You want to combo it into other weapons. Like, you know what I mean? You want to use it in between so that you avoid that 3 seconds. Let's continue, I guess, because I explained that. Oh, another thing is that it can turn rockets and cores into hit scans. This is a core. Now typically, oh shoot. Now typically the core, it explodes when it comes into contact with an enemy or any floors or walls, whatnot, roofs. Or it explodes when you hit it with a hit scan. And it turns into a red explosion that does 7 damage. Which is pretty cool. So you can do some, you know what I mean? So when you explode it itself, you know. But paired with the jackhammer's primary, it turns into a hit scan. It turns into a snipe. Huh? What do you think? Also works with rockets. Another thing with rockets, actually, nah, don't worry about it. This is not part of the clips, so I won't explain it. But, you know, it's pretty interesting. And it's very spammable as well. It's only a 2.5 second cooldown, and it does 7 damage, same as hitting a snipe. While the snipe is bigger, and it's just better for AoE. The snipe is just more convenient, and if you have good aim, it turns from 5 damage to 7 damage because the hit scan itself is 2 damage and the explosion is 5 damage. That's why it's 7 damage total. Let's continue. Now what the fuck just happened over there? A lot of things. Let's start with while I was going down. So let's say okay, so I hit him with a full blast jackhammer. This was necessary, I swear. I know I said to avoid this, but sometimes it's okay because you still have 15 other weapons in your arsenal. One cooldown is fine out of like 14 out of 15 weapons. Decommission is fine for 7 seconds. I detached that saw, and now I started a conduction chain. So, let's get into the third weapon. Nail gun. How this works is you have the attractor, which basically creates like these fields where your nails kind of like bunch up together. And then, you know, obviously these magnets are still, they're temporary. They go away after a while. See? They're not permanent. But they last for a while, and it's enough to create a conduction chain. Now, what are conduction chains? Let's start with this. This is the jumpstart nail gun. And it launches a cable. And, you know, firing that cable, wait for it, it creates like a conduction explosion. But that's not where it shines. Single target damage isn't its thing. Where it shines is groups of enemies covered in nails. I don't mean... Okay, sorry. These guys are a little too not tanky. Now, let's just wait it out, okay? See? Any enemies with nails get conducted. And this can lead to some pretty heinous shit. So... Now, obviously I didn't kill these guys. But it took away a significant chunk of their health. And that's why we like conduction, because it takes away a significant chunk of the enemy's health. And it also does like a shit ton of AoE. That's what I did, that's what I was setting up over here, because you need nails. And the more nails you have, the more damage it does. So, the more setup you do, the better. And that's what I'm doing over here. I'm constantly switching between them. I'm attaching a nail, with the first one, I'm overheating, releasing a shitload of nails for a lot of damage and also a lot of nails. Then I'm attaching the cable and I'm repeating the same process, except second, third, fourth loop, etc. You don't attach the cable, because if you reattach the cable, the 5 seconds restarts. You don't want that to happen. Now, what I did there was also a nuke. This. It requires the core. And how that happens is with the malicious railgun, which goes on cooldown for 17 seconds. So this is basically an ult, you can say. In fact, all of these weapons, they're insanely overpowered, but they can only charge once, and they take 17 seconds to recharge, which is not fun, but you know, it's okay. And what it does is it just creates a really big fucking explosion. As you saw. Well, let's try that again. Huh? And obviously explosions, like, they give you self-damage, but what I did was I dashed out of the way while in hit stop to, well, dodge, I framed the explosion. Invincibility frames. That is important in a lot of video games. If you don't know what invincibility frames are, I don't know what to say to you. I just don't think you've played enough video games, because this is like a basic term. And as you saw, I deleted like 4 large enemies. So that's Sisyphean Insurrectionist and 3 Ferrymen. I hate ferrymen. Oh, here we go to a second thing. Now this is what I call like rocket slide jump, or jump slide, rocket jump slide. And what it does is you can simply jump off your rocket like that. If you press space and control in very quick succession like this, you initiate a jump slide. On the ground, but if you do that on a rocket, you just get sent flying. And it's useful because rockets, they're turny. They're like fucking vehicles in GTA. They take a little to turn, and typically in a game as precise as this, it's not great. Let's use this guy for an example. You're trying to get to him, but your rocket is just turning in circles. You don't want that to happen, do you? So why don't we find something more instantaneous? Exactly. You can jump off at any moment you want, at any direction. That's the positive of it. It's insanely fast to get off. And it also sends you launching, which, you know, leads you to enemies and stuff like that. It's just great. You know what I mean? So that's what I did over here. and I overpumped that bitch. I hit him with another jackhammer. I did a really quick fire starter, or oil up, if you may call it. I was doing a little bit of damage to him because I kind of wanted him to like shut the fuck up, but no, only specific enemies get stunned and this guy doesn't. So I was basically wasting my time, as you see later. Now let's explain what I just did there. If you didn't notice, I waited just a little bit to release before I went, and then that ended up smashing the guy underneath. A cool little trick about these guys, Malicious Faces or Maurice, is they smash any enemy below it. So let's just move this little guy over here. Oh, that didn't work out too well. Hold on, let me fix that real quick. Okay, as you see. You see that? This guy's just scattered into pieces and he's gone. And it basically insta-kills any enemy. And this guy, the guy I was fighting before, he's a pretty tanky dude. This guy has 70 HP and we don't like that, okay? So, instead of trying to kill him with my weapons, I use environmental hazards instead, like the Maurice. So what I did was I waited to bait the guy because he just instantly locks onto you constantly. I waited to bait him just so he gets under the Maurice. Then the second he's under there, I hit him. I parry, then I hit him with a jackhammer to kill him, and that just deletes both at the same time. And that saves me a ton of time, and, you know, maybe even saves me from death, you know? Let's move on. Okay. What the fuck did I just do over here? Let's get into coins, shall we? With example here that I just spawned in here. Coins, they auto-lock into the closest enemy. They'll auto-lock onto the closest enemy to them. And there's a little bit of nuance. So you want to time the coin correctly. If you do it in, like, immediately, as you see, the animation was different. If you do it immediately, not as much damage. Except if you do it on time, it either, it doubles the damage. Obviously, it's different between variants. There's a mechanic called variance in this game, where you could, you can swap the, you know, there's basically this guy, which does split shots. It's different. But I won't get into that because this isn't the weapon I use. Split shots, like I said. Now, let's go back here. Now I punched the coin. I released another one. And that auto-locked onto the coin, then into the enemy over here. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Let's get into that. Now there's this mechanic that we call coin punching. Basically, it does less damage than a normal coin, except it recycles that coin and makes it bump up into the air from the enemy that it auto-locked onto, as you see. And that means we can reuse the coin again, right? So, and it also, like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? It also stacks, like, it increases by 1 damage every time it's recycled, or every time you punch it. As you see, if you are, like, looking closely at the boss health bar, the damage of the coin increased exponentially. But that's not very... Well, it's not practical in the cybergrind because you're constantly moving. You can't just wait for an enemy. You have to keep moving. And during those times, you don't really have the time to, you know, exponentially increase the coin punch, especially when it's stationary and you have to, like, aim towards it. You have to go towards it and stuff like that. It's just not practical. But what is practical with coin punching is stuff like this. or stuff like this. Same thing. One of the things about coins is when there's a core, a rocket, an SRS, anything from your arsenal that you spawned in that can be hit with a hit scan, it goes immediately after that. So you can chain coins, as you see. Let's just give myself infinite weapons. As you see, like, it went up in, like, it just folded together beautifully. And that's the theory of what I just did over here. So if you're looking really closely, I coin punch the guy. The coin should probably be somewhere over here. I release another coin, I hit it, and hit the enemy that's not in my line of sight. Obviously, I can see them with the mod that I have on, which allows me to see the last 5 enemies in the arena, so I don't have to waste my time trying to fucking find a fodder or, like, another, you know, schism, which is just hiding from me. That's besides the point. So, he's obviously not in my line of sight. When enemies aren't in your line of sight, the coin doesn't work. So, like, over here, for example, the coin can't hit the stray. We don't like that. But for example, if I do a coin punch. Oh wait, hold on. Oh wait, that was in the line of sight. That's not what I wanted to do. See? Nice, right? And obviously it, like, when there's no enemies to lock onto, it just goes towards your cursor. But when there is, like this guy, this coin is now in the line of sight of the stray, and then I just released another coin to chain into the coin before and hit the stray. Crazy, right? Now I just did an insta-rocket ride, and I start setting up for the next wave with gasoline. Boom. That is one wave of cybergrind and the theory behind it. There is so much more to explore, but I won't get into it because this is 23 fucking minutes long.